What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're back on that Persona train. So I've been playing a ton of Persona 5 Royale on the PlayStation 4 Pro. I've said this many times, but for all the new people, I love Persona. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time. But if there's one annoying thing about Persona, especially with Persona 5 and Persona 4, those are my two favorite, is that there's no real way to play them portably and anywhere that you want, kind of like very easily, right? You have Persona 4 Golden on the PlayStation Vita, which is fantastic, but hooking that up and playing remote play TV and all that isn't necessarily ideal. And then you also have Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal, both really good games. I have both of them. They're fantastic. But Persona to me has always been a game that's been played great on a portable device, or the fact that you can switch between the two like if it was on the Nintendo Switch. So for this discussion video, we're going to talk about this because I've made multiple videos before. There's been rumors, there's been all sorts of stuff. Persona has a very dramatic history just in like this past year or so, if it was ever going to come to the Switch. I mean, people are still waiting for Persona 5 Scramble, The Phantom Strikers, which is a sequel to Persona 5. That game's on the Switch already in Japan, and it's coming to the West at some point. You also look at Joker's inclusion in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. You look at the Joker outfit in Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I mean, there's so many nods and type of little things here and there that relate back to Persona on Nintendo platforms, or at least even like Persona 5, right? On Nintendo platforms in exclusive content. So will 2021 finally be the year that the Nintendo Switch gets Persona 5? And I probably think a lot of you guys are just going to be right off the bat say, no, it's not going to happen. But let's go over a few different reasons why it could happen finally in 2021. Now, the first thing that I want to say here for those who maybe think that there's some type of exclusive deal, we've investigated this. And when I say we, I mean just people on the internet. There is one article that I could find that even made it believe to seem like there's some type of exclusive deal, but nothing was ever said in there, nor was it confirmed by any parties. There was also one of the old, I think like Atlas of USA, like managers or something like that. Something, I'm not really sure, that said that it's an exclusive, but he was like fired later or something like that. And I guess that wasn't necessarily the case when it comes to what Japan was saying. So it's a bit complicated when it comes down to it, right? It's a bit complicated, but I do think that there isn't a deal. There is no exclusive deal, or if there is one, it's just like for, let's just say, marketing, like helping out with that, helping out with like position on like the PSN, or helping out with certain things like that, right? So I don't think it's anything to where it's like some type of huge money deal that gets them only on PlayStation forever. So I do think that there could be some Persona 5 Nintendo Switch news in 2021. Let's go over a few more things here. One, Persona 5 Scramble, The Phantom Strikers. This is the interesting thing because that game is literally a canon sequel to Persona 5. So if you have a canon sequel to Persona 5, why would you not have the actual one game before that? Now, of course, you can have games that come out before on the Switch that don't have the previous ones, and that's true. But if you look at Persona, and if you look at the way, the landscape of how things are shaped in Japan with console sales and everything like that, it would make complete sense on the assumption, right? Hypothetical assumption that there's no exclusive deal to make even more money in getting that port out to the Nintendo Switch. Now, another reason why I think it could come is because Sega, not too long ago, I think it was last year or earlier this year, said that, hey, we kind of messed up when it comes to multi-platform. We need to do multi-platform better. We need to make sure that we have games on all the different systems, because out of all of the major Japanese companies, Sega was absolutely one of the worst with supporting all three platforms somewhat equally, or even, at all at times, right? I mean, if you look at it, yes, they had stuff like Sonic Mania. They did have multi-platform games, but a lot of their games were not multi-platform. A lot of them were just peddling to one audience or the other, and it ends up just losing you a lot of money. When you look at sales, right? You look at all the different sales that are out there. There are so many options for consumers to buy things, and some games might resonate more with one base than another. Sega has been guilty of thinking that, okay, our game is only needs to sell, or our game's only going to sell to this base because of this, because we have to do this, and we don't want to spend as much money. And it's just like, this doesn't make sense. Like the Yakuza franchise for the longest time, now it's on Xbox, now they're doing PC stuff. I mean, there's so many more franchises that they have that should explore out a bit more. I know like the new Sakura Wars games, for some reason, it's only on the PlayStation 4. Like there's no need for that, right? So I do think that after they had that historically bad quarter in everything, so Sega is much better than that, and they can do much better. So I do think that they realize that they need to get more stuff multi-platform, especially going forward in the future. Now, another thing that I want to talk about here, guys, is the landscape of Japan, and this is probably the biggest one to consider when you're talking about what games could come over. So we are transitioning to a new gen, right? We have a new gen that we're transitioning to with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Nintendo's kind of already been there with the 9th gen since 2017 because that's their next generation system. So if you go forward and you look at what's going on here, you look at the sales trends, obviously the Nintendo Switch is absolutely killing it. Whether it's America here, it's been the best selling system for like 2 years in a row, or if you look at what's going on in Japan, it's been the best selling system for a very long time, pretty much almost since it launched. It's been the best selling system in Japan. So if you're looking at those different factors, and if you're a Japanese developer, if you're a Persona developer, if you're Atlas, if you're Sega, you're looking at the sales. I mean, it's going to hit 70 million this year. All right, it's going to hit 70 million this year. And yes, you have a tied up PlayStation. It makes sense to continue releasing on there. And also, if you still want to make PS4 games, you can have that on PS5. There will be backwards compatibility, and I get that. But are you really going to ignore, for a Japanese RPG that already doesn't sell enough for how good it is, because that's what Persona is, guys. Persona should be a 10 million plus unit seller, especially on that massive install base of the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4 combined. It definitely should have sold 10 million units, in my opinion, based on how good it was. Are you really going to go into the next generation and make exclusive Persona for a PlayStation 5 or whatever the case is, right? And yeah, you can do PS4 as well, but how many more people are going to be left over to play on there? Are you really going to do that and skip out if there's no deal? Like I said, hypothetically speaking, no deal here, which I don't think there is, but we're taking that into consideration. Are you really going to leave out the Switch and that 80 million install base? And the next year is going to be 90 million, and it can probably reach up to 100 million considering what is coming out in 2021. There are some killers out there with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Monster Hunter Rise, Shin Megami Tensei 5. I mean, there are some big games that are going to move or help move a lot of units. You're going to leave yourself out of that again, right? So to me, that doesn't make sense. And that's probably the biggest reason why I think that we are going to see Persona on the Nintendo Switch in 2021. Persona 5 would be great, but maybe even Persona 4, which I talked about before, right? This video is focused on Persona 5, but we can definitely discuss Persona 4, because if you look at the sales of Persona 4 on the PC, Sega and Atlas were kind of like surprised that the game did so well on Steam. They're like, oh wow, we sold 500,000 copies at 20 bucks and made millions of dollars in an instant. Oh, I wonder why. It's like, dude, that's what we've been saying. It's like that's what we've been trying to tell you guys for the longest time. Like, what are you doing, right? There's no exclusive deal with Persona 4 and all that. People saying, oh, it can only come to PlayStation. No, it can't. Went to PC, there was no deal, and it did phenomenal for how old the game, for how it looked and everything. It's crazy how that game did. Now, imagine if there was a Switch version of Persona 4. It would have obviously sold way more than the PC version of that, right? So just imagine the type of possibilities possibilities you could have even with an old game, right? Persona 4 is seriously like over a decade old, right? And if you look at Persona 4 Golden, which is where the game is based from, that was 2012 on the PlayStation Vita. So you're going on a decade for that game. So if you take all of that combined, Sega and Atlus have to be looking at the Switch and saying, okay, this can be something that we need to do. But they do take their time. That's the thing. They do take their time at porting. It took a while for this Persona 4 PC Steam thing to kind of manifest itself and for us to get it. So I do think it's going to take a little bit of time for us to see Persona 5 and Persona 4. But when they finally do launch, Sega and Atlus will be like, okay, man, we really missed out. But I do think that the base that the Switch has will be completely happy with those games if they bring them over as late as they might be. I think they're going to sell extremely well because they perfectly fit what the Switch is about, which is playing on the go. Persona is great for that. It's so good for playing portable and then also playing on the TV as well. So those are my thoughts, guys. I think it could happen in 2021, whether we get Persona 4 or Persona 5 or we get both of them. I do think that we could see some major Persona coming to the Switch finally in 2021 as Sega kind of gets their act together. So what do you guys think about what I had to say here? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.